Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. This is I'm So Beastly, episode 22. In case you're curious, this is a live episode. This is the first time that I have gone live. I decided to start going live whenever I have an episode by myself without a guest. I just figured the whole point of this podcast is to generate a discussion. Maybe for me to be the doorway for you on your own journey, to open up your eyes to perhaps asking certain questions, maybe questions you didn't think of. Maybe seeing someone else on that same wavelength will assist you in taking that next step and doing your own research, and realizing there are others out there like you who do think the same way. And I know when I started my journey, it would have been nice. I had one friend along the way, thank goodness. And we were able to, pinball ideas off of each other. And so that really helped. And I just want to be, that friend for you in case you don't have someone like I did. So I'm here for that. And another reason I'm doing this intro again in this manner instead of just getting right into it like I normally do, I wanted to reiterate that my podcast is more of a jumping off point, not necessarily an ending. Of course, it's never going to be an ending. This journey is continuous, right? I want my podcast to be that doorway, right? A gate to the other side. I want it to essentially scratch the surface and really get you interested in learning more and doing your own research and following your own path, answering your own questions, because in the end, really, your journey is going to be individualized, right? Your journey will never be the same as someone else's. It can be very similar. You can understand certain things the same way, but each individual journey is catered to that specific individual. And if I can be that jumping off point, that person that can just spark an interest in you or get you asking those questions, then by all means, I am happy to do that. I will gladly be that diving board to help you, jump in. But having said that, we're off and running. If you are joining us on this live, thank you so much. If you're listening after the fact, of course, we still love to have you. Thank you for participating in I'm So Beastly. You are so beastly, and we are so beastly. Now, I've been mentioning this episode for quite some time. I have theories. Some might be fresh, some might not be. And that's okay. The more avenues, the more channels that can get this information out there, or these thoughts out there, these theories out there, the quicker they spread, the more easily they spread, the more ears that are able to hear them. And that's what all this is about, once again, to get you thinking. And so this topic is Atlantis. It has been debated for many, many years, Atlantis. Okay. A lot of it is derived in the fact that it is considered to be a lost city, a physical place. All right. And this may be true in part, but there are some glaring gaps in that logic that just don't make any sense to me. I'm a very logical person. I need to understand the whys, the hows. I need to understand these things to have something make sense to me, to not, for me to stop questioning. It has to make sense. I'm not just going to stop because I don't find an answer. I'm going to keep asking questions until something makes sense. All right. Atlantis is one of those topics. Okay. People have looked for years and years and years and have tried to find Atlantis. Okay. The first mention of Atlantis was however many years ago in a book by Plato. Okay, and he mentions it being somewhere around the Colossus of Rhodes, which is in the Strait of Gibraltar which is somewhere up near the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. So he mentions this place, and I have not read it. I know Cliff Notes, and I know after the fact. So excuse me if I'm getting some of my details mixed up on this. Um, but I'm pretty sure. So he mentions concentric circles. So the town, starts off and it has basically a circle of, roads, buildings, whatever, and then it'll have some land and water, and they'll have another circle of, roads, buildings, land, whatever, and then it'll have another circle of water, and it does this, and there's a few of those concentric circles, and so this is how the city is described, the city of Atlantis. And so it's described as this physical place. And I don't necessarily think that's wrong. However, okay, I had a strong vision. Call it what you will, whatever. I had a vision. Okay, and the information came in about Atlantis. And it said Atlantis is not just a physical place. Yes, it has been a physical place. Okay, but it is more, the physical place isn't what has been broadcast over many, or theorized over, the past hundreds of years. Basically, the physical aspect of Atlantis is more or less a location of a gate, okay, a portal. Call it a Stargate, call it an interdimensional gate, call it what you will. But this city of Atlantis is not necessarily just in this 3D realm. It is in a higher dimension. It's a different dimension. And so basically, I'm not saying the city of Atlantis is false, is not physical. I'm just saying I don't think it is physical in this dimension that we live in. Okay? It is more of a state of mind. It's a frequency. And so you have to be on this frequency to go to this location, this physical location, and pass through this gate, right? And get to this other dimension, to Atlantis in this other dimension, in a frequency. So think about Atlantis. Essentially, I'm going to start referring to it. When I do, it's going to be a school of thought. So Atlantis is a higher vibrational, universal frequency location. You must be in tune to visit it, right? And, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, these people, they were in tune because it's what they did. It's what they knew. This was before things started getting tainted. So Atlantis was this superior civilization, this advanced civilization that could do many things, spiritually advanced, technologically advanced, right? And so, but they could connect the minds. They were more of a one consciousness civilization. And so it got to a point where technology started advancing beyond the spiritual aspect. The spiritual advancements started slowing compared to technology. And so then they became more technologically advanced. They stopped focusing as much on the frequency, or it started getting, the signal started getting jammed a little more. Okay. And so basically these people, not as many people could tune into it. And so it started losing little by little by little and started getting less advanced in that way, because the focus was shifted elsewhere. The focus was shifted on technology, right? Very synonymous with kind of what's happening in our world today. We're focusing on technology, but not the proper avenues of spirituality, right? And there's documentation that the United States was built to be the new Atlantis. Okay. Neither here nor there. I have not looked into that directly. I'm just saying that is out there. Okay. I believe there's even a book called The New Atlantis, which basically describes the United States and Atlantis and the comparisons and contrasting. And then there's a documentary about the Knights Templar that goes into it and discusses it. But that's a whole thing in itself. So Atlantis being the school of thought, right? The flood is not so much a physical flood. Okay. I mean, you can think of any flood in any civilization, any sacred text, they all talk about a flood, right? But this flood, it wasn't an actual flood. It was the diminishing of the frequency of the consciousness level, right? Essentially, Atlantis was living in Christ consciousness as a whole. The entire civilization, right? The entire school of thought was Christ consciousness. Okay. And so then over time, this Christ consciousness started getting, it started going away because they were focused elsewhere. They had outside factors coming in and kind of messing with their minds, essentially. And mind you, all of this is theoretical, right? This is all some from what I've seen, research, some from vision, some from just pure thought. So, like I said, I'm just there to start the conversation. Take from it what you will, and do your own research. As always, ask questions, of course, right? So basically, the flood came and the city was lost. The state of mind was lost. The Christ consciousness was lost. Okay. The people could no longer get to the consciousness, get to the frequency level to access Atlantis in this other dimension. Some could, but of course it's lost. And so we are not nearly as advanced as them because we have not reached that frequency again as a collective. We're still gradually clawing our way there. Some of us are working towards it. Some of us don't even know what we lost. Some of us don't understand what we had. Some of us have no clue, what even is there. Some are looking at the world as a blade of grass, when in reality it's a huge mahogany tree. I don't know, terrible analogy, but you get the idea, right? So essentially, the frequency's gone. We cannot access Atlantis anymore, so it's considered lost. Now, when did it turn from being a lost state of consciousness, right, a lost school of thought, a lost frequency, to become a physical place? Well, multiple theories on this, I suppose. Okay, it goes from state of thought to a physical place because it distracts you from the proper way of thinking. Okay, it's like sleight of hand. They look over here because what we're actually doing is over here, right? So if you get people thinking that it's just a physical place, they'll stop looking for the spiritual. They'll stop trying to figure out the frequency. They will just start looking for the physical place and disregard the rest because the physical becomes the treasure, when in reality, the frequency is the treasure, right? The frequency is what can reveal the city once more, but the physical is what we can touch. So unless we can touch it, we don't think that it's there. We don't believe that it's real. So that is kind of why we are focusing on the physical, trying to actually locate this physical city, but we're not going to find it because it's not there. And here's how I know it's not there. Mind you, once again, this is all theoretical. This is me connecting dots. If I've missed a dot, please, by all means, let me know. I will gladly take your comments, thoughts, and suggestions into consideration and reevaluate. Okay? Whenever you're looking for something, remnants would be there. Remnants of some sort would be there. They have looked for hundreds of years and found nothing, right? They're nothing. There should be statues, even if relatively, rubble, there would be something there. There should be some sort of concentric circles there, right? I understand that the ocean levels have risen, but they have not risen enough to make Atlantis completely be non-existent. It's not realistic, okay? Even if they know exactly where it is or where it's said to be. Oh, buddy. I thought my dog got out, but it was just my cat running around. Oh. But even if it is where they said to be, it's not terribly deep over there, right? They could have figured it out from the bottom by now. They could, they can send sonar down or whatever and send signal down through the earth to a certain degree and find what's down there. I know they have this technology. Okay. They can do that. it can send up an image basically mapping the area. And to my knowledge, they have not found any remnants of Atlantis, of an actual city. And that does not add up to me. It just doesn't. Okay. Like I said, if you can find some proof to show me, by all means, I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it. I would love to be proven wrong. Of course I would. Then that would give me more knowledge, more understanding of the topic. And then we can start to connect different dots because, we've stumbled upon something. Right? So it doesn't make any sense for there to be absolutely nothing to show of a city that was so prominent and so huge for so long that in essentially one day it's just wiped out. Right? We can connect this to, and it's what have the most understanding of, or the most familiarity with. So I'll connect it to the Bible, the flood in the Bible, right? You can say whatever timeline you want. Okay. But the flood in the Bible and the, sinking of Atlantis are synonymous, because the flood in the Bible is not actually killing the people, right? It's killing the consciousness. It's killing the frequency. It's making people more reliant on something they don't understand. Okay. It's making them start over. It is taking away their power and making them restart from scratch without remembering anything. Okay. The floods are synonymous. There's all the floods and all of the different texts are synonymous. Atlantis, it's all allegory, right? Atlantis is, yes, partially legitimate as a physical city, but mostly it is a frequency. It is a gate to a city in a different dimension, right? I don't really know if there's any other way that I can discuss this other than, I don't really know. I mean, that's basically all there is to it. It's a school of thought. It's a frequency. The sinking of Atlantis was a lost frequency. And now we are trying to find it, but instead of actively doing it the right way, trying to regain the frequency, we're looking for a physical location. Okay. We need to try to get back on that frequency. And from there, we will be able to regain Atlantis, the Christ consciousness, the school of thought, right? Atlantis encompassed the entire world at one point, not just a small, speck on the map. It was an entire school of thought, right? So, that's where I stand on this. If it makes sense, let me know. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. If you have counter arguments or disagreements, by all means, please let me know. I would love to discuss them. I would love to see them. I would love to maybe understand something that I'm not understanding, right? And that's the whole point of this, is to boom, 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 connect dots and understand things we don't understand, right? That's why we are doing this. But yeah, I don't like to keep them long when I'm rocking by myself. So this has been episode 22. I'm your host, Mr. Richard. Please like this video, subscribe, whatever. It helps out. If you don't, then hey, no worries. Thank you for joining us this time. It's been fun. My books are in the description. If you like what I've said here, you can dive a little deeper down there. They are nonfiction, but hey, they're a good time. And if you don't like what you're hearing here, then hey, by all means, we won't see you again, but thanks for joining us this time. All right, we will catch you on episode 23. Who knows what it's going to be about? But as always, ta-ta, kittens.